Hello, everyone. I'm coming at you live here from my hotel room in Chambéry, and I'm going to talk to you today about branding your archery competition. Now, this presentation isn't going to be very long because the concept is very simple, and I really want to get across the fact that you don't have to be a big event or spend a lot of money to effectively brand an archery competition. So we're going to talk about this very briefly. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the lockdown knockout, which we did over the last couple of months for World Archery, and how we branded that and how we came up with the concept and the look. Then I'm going to go through step by step, very briefly, what is the process of applying, what is the process of designing a brand for an archery competition. And then we're going to look at a pretend archery competition. We're going to brand that right here on this stream. And then we're going to be done. It should take no more than 20 minutes. So thank you for paying attention while I talk about something that I am quite passionate about, but is not very widely done in archery circles. So to start with, the lockdown knockout, we identified the current situation in the world, and that was that we'd normally be in the mid of the competition season. We'd be two stages into the Hyundai Archery World Cup. We'd be coming up on the Olympics, and the fact was that there was nothing happening because of the COVID-19 situation and the lack of competition. Nothing was going on. And many people around the world, including archers, were stuck at their houses. They weren't able to go and practice or compete. The high-level athletes, and also people just like archery, people, recreational athletes, the ones that are our fans, the ones that really care about the sport, and the ones that watch our normal products. So in that kind of guise, we knew that there was a gap in the situation, the gap in the market. There was no competitions from any sport, and because of the flexibility of archery, we were going to be able to fill that gap in a small way. And the two things we wanted to achieve by doing the lockdown knockout was provide content for fans and content for TV stations. There are many other things about the lockdown knockout, many other things we did, and many other benefits we got from it. I mean, the archers really enjoyed doing it, the ones we picked. But at the end of the day, the things we wanted to achieve were only this. So any other benefits were coincidental or a product of doing it, not something that we set out as a goal. And this is really critical. The fact is, you can't have too many goals with a product and too many goals with a brand. You have to have a target market, a thing you want to achieve. And with a lockdown knockout, it was only this: do some kind of entertaining content for fans and some kind of entertaining content for TV stations. And we decided, given the brand architecture, given the situation at the time, mid-competition season, no competitions going on, everyone stuck at home, and given what we wanted to achieve, we needed to build a brand architecture that was a bit over the top, a bit ridiculous. It couldn't have been just people on their phone shooting or people on Zoom competing over the internet. If we wanted to deliver it to TV stations, if we wanted to achieve our goals, it had to be something over the top, something insane, something silly, and that's why we chose ridiculous as one of the key kind of components of the brand architecture. When we built that branding, the kind of gold and red branding, and very much moving all the time, something going on, it was a little bit ridiculous. It's not how archery is normally presented. Normally very clean, very relaxed, very very simple, and this was something else. We had to be reliable in our brand. It had to be something that fit with what we normally do. We pride ourselves in World Archery on delivering content reliably, on hitting deadlines of when we distribute stuff, being really, really simple, and not overspending on stuff, but actually doing what we promise, being consistent, always having stuff available if someone needs it. And one of those goals to deliver to TV stations was kind of strange in this environment, because archery is not on a huge amount of TV stations, but we've managed to make gains by being reliable, by giving consistent, good quality footage, by giving a competition structure that people can take. And in a world where no sport was going on and no content was being sent, to be reliable is very, very powerful. So one of our huge strengths is something that we wanted to show in the brand architecture. And finally, be entertaining. Entertainment. Sport is entertainment, let's be honest. You watch sport because you want to be entertained, and in this situation, more than anything else, entertainment was the key component for our fans. We wanted people to be able to watch something when they can't watch anything. There's no Hyundai Archery World Cups. There's no competitions that you can go to on a weekend because everything's been cancelled. So we had to entertain people, and as much as you can broadcast old footage or archive footage, the entertainment of live competition was never there. So our brand needed to be you know, fun, not just something boring or simple, but a bit over the top. It kind of fits in with ridiculous. It kind of fits in with reliable as well, you know, because it had to carry on at the same time every day. It had to be, you know, something that you could go and visit every day, something that you could enjoy every day to work. So that's kind of a basic look, very simple about the background behind the lockdown knockout. And it's worth noting at this point how simple it looks here. It's not some kind of magic. It literally is that simple. We knew what the situation was. We knew what we want to achieve with the project, and we knew what we defined what we wanted it to look like with the brand architecture. As we go on, I'll show you, I'll show you how we can apply that to a kind of local event or regional event, but it's no more complicated than that. Brand architecture and defining a brand is very, very easy, and that really quick thought process can yield massive benefit. So this is the logo we came up with, and everything came after this logo. The name and the logo, the lockdown knockout, it was come up with a friend of mine. It fits into that kind of, the situation, the lockdown, the pandemic, the knockout, bit entertaining, bit ridiculous. The colors a bit over the top, not really in fitting with the kind of normal archery, simple, clean look. Something different, something entertaining, something fun, but something reliable. It's still, it looks more professional than it is. And to be quite honest with you, this was designed in about an hour, very simply, with exactly the brief you've just seen, taking some free assets. It's not complicated. I didn't do it in an expensive program, done in a very cheap program, but this was kind of the foundation for the branding for the lockdown knockout. And then I'm not going to show you here because you can see it all over YouTube, but all of the funny colors, all of the moving graphics, all of the animations we did all came from this very simple idea of having something that's fun, engaging, entertaining, and a little bit ridiculous. Obviously, the kind of, the logo itself was the basis, and then what we created afterwards fit into those other goals. So creating something for fans, we probably didn't need to do all those moving animations, the nice intro, the graphics that animated, but given that we wanted to deliver it to TV stations, one of the components of our brand architecture was being reliable. We had to create some of these kind of assets and these overproduced replay wipes and bumpers. That was done in-house in World Archery by Gwen, who creates a lot of the video stuff for the YouTube account, for Facebook. And it wasn't a super expensive agency. It was quite simple. And everyone around the world knows someone who can do a little bit of graphics. Our capability was enabled us to be able to do those bumpers and those animations. But you kind of don't have to go that far if that's not what you're looking for. If you've defined your situation, your goals, and the components of your brand architecture, how you implement that is the next step. And this is how we did. Those over-designed assets, but the over-designed assets were the things you kind of see. The things you don't see is the simple stuff. Is the structured live broadcast. We tried to come every day at a certain time. The commentary and how the episodes flowed, they were very designed. They weren't just some kind of, we'll turn on a Zoom call and we'll just do it together. We spent a long time looking at the order of content and how those applications, those assets, would apply in that broadcast. But all the time it was feeding into that kind of brand and logo we designed, of being enthusiastic, being fun, being reliable. As did the interaction with the archers, which we don't normally get to see in World Archery broadcast. The interaction with the archers is something ridiculous in terms of competition. Interacting while someone's concentrating and competing is not something that you'd want to see at a World Championships when they're focused on winning. But given the situation, given the goals, it's something that we were able to do to try to almost hide what was actually behind. And fundamentally, the lockdown knockout itself was just a couple of people in fields or barns streaming, and that's it. And without that kind of brand, without that image around it, it would have been rubbish. It would have been awful, and we wouldn't have achieved those two goals that that we set out, which was to deliver content to fans and deliver content to TV stations. And literally, that's it. So that's all it takes to design and to apply a brand to an event. All you have to do is understand your situation, define your event, and that doesn't just mean, you know, the number of targets, the number of archers that are coming, the field itself. It kind of means the situation. Is there a tournament 2 minutes down the road? Is it part of a national tour of circuits? What's the context? I mean, perhaps better than define your event is what's the contemporary context that you're organizing the event in? Because if you don't understand that, then it's very difficult to make something that fits. And all we've talked about during this summit today is making things that fit, you know. The next presentation or two presentations is going to be from Adam, and he's going to talk about partnerships and how you can't go to a Nokia if you're a local brand. You can't go to a multinational company if you're a small event. So you've got to understand what your event is. And that part with the lockdown knockout was understanding the situation at the time, the pandemic, what was available, what wasn't available. And then the next step is defining your goals. What do you want to achieve with it? And these goals changed, you know, as things grow. The example we've just seen, the goals weren't going to change. It was a short event, but it fit two things. That was all we wanted to do with it. There were many other great things that happened, like the athletes enjoying it, but the goals were literally to give some content to the fans and give some content to TV stations. That was it. And then the step is create a brand. I mean, you know, come up with a name, come up with a logo. And as we go through the next part of this presentation, we'll see that it's not that complicated to do. You know, the paint, it can be done in paint, it can be done in a simple editing software, but just having the thought process to come to that name and that logo or that brand itself is the most important thing, and then the application of it. And in the lockdown knockout, that was doing the structured, that was doing the structured broadcast, that was doing the flexibility, the talking to the athletes. But it can apply in many different ways. So the second part of this presentation, that was the first part. As I told you, it's going to be very, very quick because we're going to explain how simple this is to do for your own event. The second part of this is we're going to fake an event. We're going to think of a fake event, and we're going to design a very, very quick brand for it. So my fake event, it's in the New Forest in the UK. There are going to be 20 targets. It's a head-to-head event, so 70 meters and match play, and it's you know, world record status. So you can shoot a world record in the morning if you're able. There are no other events in the vicinity. There's no competition. You know, I'm quite a reasonable club, but I still think a brand is necessary for this, and you know, not for any other purpose than to build it as something that exists, to build loyalty, to build it as a product more than anything. So that's my fake event. It's in the New Forest, and it's a head-to-head. We've defined our event, we've defined our situation. Nothing else going on in the vicinity, no competitors for athletes. We're not trying to attract international athletes, just local archers from the region. And it wants to be, you know, a good competition. We want people to feel like they've competed, to do head-to-heads, the winner means something, you know. So the goals are to make money, you know, not a lot, a couple of thousand, 1,000 even, but to be respected for delivering something of quality. We want it to be full. We want the competition to be good. We want it to be tight, and making a competition good in terms of full and respected as how it's run isn't just about putting the targets up. It's about the feeling that the archers have or the consumers have in any situation to come. Their experience on the day, and then how they feel about it when it leaves, when they leave. And I think a really good way to think about this is if you go and do something and all you've got is a field and some targets, your feeling is almost going to be entirely based on how you shoot on that day, how you perform. Whereas if you're being distracted by a brand, by kind of a feeling, by an ambience created by the event itself, the importance of how you shot lessens, and your experience of how you enjoyed the day and how all the information was given and how the lunch was, that all becomes more important. So if you're running an event on a yearly basis and your clientele, you're the archers that come and shoot, their entire win-loss is based on whether they shoot well. Their entire memory is based on whether they shoot well. It's not a great thing. It's for your club. It's not a great sustainable thing. And look at some of the biggest events in the world. Vegas, the flight system in that's part of the Vegas branding. That the idea that you can go and you can win even if you're not at the top level. You can go and you can be 300th in the Rico flight, but you can walk away with money. And it's not part of the brand, the kind of logo and the name itself, but it's part of the feeling that's created by the Vegas shoot. And without this, would Vegas be as successful? It is nearly 4,000 archers. Probably not. Nîmes as well. Nîmes, the cut to make the head-to-heads in Nîmes is larger than the World Championships when it was being run. So is people's enjoyment based on whether they make that cut in Nîmes? No, it's based on the atmosphere, the feeling, the enjoyment that's created by going to it. So yeah, look at your local event, and this local event we've got in the New Forest that we were talking about here. Do I want their experience to be the decision maker on whether they come back the next time? No, I want to create something so that they enjoy the event, no matter if they perform well or badly, and they come back the next year. So these are our goals: make money, be respected, and fill the registration, but do so in a way that's kind of sustainable in the long term. And so this is the brand I came up with. I was going to do this live, but I think that would be a bit clunky. So I took 5 minutes before this stream started, and I created a logo and a name. I'm a bit of a fan of the word knockout at the moment, so I applied it again. Alliterations, all good, but the New Forest knockout. I've created a very simple logo with 2 shapes, a circle and a tree that I downloaded from the internet. And this is not complicated. It's very easy to say, it's too difficult to create a logo. It's too challenging to know these programs. You need training, but realistically, coming up with something very simple and clean like this is not complicated. Many kids these days can make something like this. Many adults these days can make something like this, and it only took a few minutes. But suddenly we've transformed this tournament that was just grass and some targets into a real entity by having a logo, a font. I just clicked down Word and chose a font, and a name that's something a bit more. So if you've got an event, if you're running an event, how can you apply this same principle? I mean, instead of calling it the Lausanne Archers 17th feature 18, even an old word that we don't even use anymore, because you call it something that has a bit more oomph, a bit more gusto. The Lausanne Classic. I don't know. Give it an identity. Give it a reason to be. And the logo, I mean, doesn't have to be complicated. The thing with circles, and you can see that I'm a fan of circles as well. The Summer Summit has a circle. The New Forest Knockout has a circle. Circles are ubiquitous in archery, the targets are to everywhere. And they're very easy, and they're very easy to recognize. You only need a couple of things to really build a very simple logo. And, it suddenly transforms your competition from something that is run by a club and kind of very amateur to something that is completely a professional product. And the value that you gain from doing so is ginormous, and the loyalty you'll gain is ginormous as well. So there we go. There's the New Forest Knockout. And how we're going to apply this at our events. We don't have a lot of money. We're a small club. We're just going to put the logo on the documents, on the entry form, on the results list. We're going to print one banner, a couple of €100 at most, and we're going to put that at the back, and people are going to be able to take photos with that if they want. And we're going to have live results. And actually, this is the really critical thing. Coming up with the brand and the logo. It's almost irrelevant, the kind of logo, once you've made it, the kind of name of the event. But it'll give you an attitude to fulfill, a kind of a product that you want to live up to. And we said we wanted to be reliable, and we wanted to give be respected as an event. And part of that is deciding which services. So the experience that people are going to have at this event, it's got a logo, it's a product, but they're also going to have live results as they compete. And suddenly, again, you just increase things a tiny bit. But if you just had live results at a local event that kind of didn't have a name or didn't have a thing, people aren't really associating it very well. They can say, "Oh, I went to a tournament down here and it had some live results," but it's not memorable. It's not something people will take away with them or they'll remember. If someone says at the New Forest knockout they have live results, the New Forest knockout, they look that up. There's a nice logo. There's a name. It's memorable, and that's how you start to build things. And at my event, because it's got respect, because it's a well-run event, I'm going to charge a little bit more for it, and I'm going to give that money back to the archers. And I mean, before I came to do this job, the last project I worked on was the Indoor Archery World Cup event in Telford, and I remember back then we charged 70 quid, I think, £70 in Britain, for an entry to a tournament, a 60-hour tournament, much like Nîmes. The same price that Nîmes charge. And loads of people in the UK said, no one will ever go. You're charging way too much. It's people don't want to spend that much money. And the thing is, loads of people came. We had 750 entries, something like that. And people didn't come because it was a World Cup stage in itself. They came because we put so much work into promising something more, and that was kind of the brand architecture. We designed very simple logo, but it was again a bit more professional, a bit much. Like it gave that impression that they were getting more for their money, because if when you spend your money, do you want to buy something and get no value for it? No, and you need to show that value in advance. But if we've got this logo for our small event, we've got this identity, we're able to start charging a bit more. We're able to give a prize fund. And then suddenly you've transformed this local tournament that was just nothing into a real event, a highlight of people's year, not based on how they shoot, but based on the atmosphere, based on the brand behind it. And this is the conclusion. Very simple. Why should you brand the tournament? Because it forces you to think about what you're doing. And brand doesn't stop at the logo and the word mark. It stops when you've thought about the overall product that you're delivering. And once you've done that branding process, you're building loyalty. You're an event. You're less of a kind of a competition for local people, or something people can forget. You're an event in their year. You're something that they'll remember. And if you deliver to your goals that have inspired your brand and your name and your logo, then people will remember it and they'll appreciate it. And the value they'll get back from the investment they've made in their money and their day and their time coming to compete at your event, they'll remember it, and that loyalty will grow. And even if things don't go to plan, the amount of effort you've put in because you made it that little bit better kind of shows through, and you can kind of get away. The live results fail, they tried. They're still a small event. They're still a small club running a local tournament, but they put branding and thought into it. And at the end of the day, branding is all about selling. The reason that you brand anything is to sell it. In archery, which is a very volunteer-driven sport, it's quite difficult to use that concept of sell. But at the end of the day, when you're attracting people to your events, you are selling. You are selling a day. You're selling a product. You're selling an experience. And it's really important that by recognizing that and growing it and making it something that's a little bit more than it is, you're building a better event. You're building a better experience for people. So that was a very, very quick presentation. I think that's the end. About why to brand an archery tournament and how you can brand it quite easily. So I hope it's useful. I'm not going to talk any more about this, but I really hope you apply it to any events that you might be running. And if you ever need any help, you can find my email online, and I'd be very, very happy to kind of support you through that. So thanks very much.